Okay, so this is the agenda. Let's start. So we'll start with the introduction, which we just did. We'll discuss what is process mining. We'll see what are the advantages of process mining, the process areas. We'll have a quick demo as well. We'll go into the process mining and see the different kind of options over there, and obviously we'll have the questionnaire at the end. But in between, if you have any questions, you feel free to stop me in case there is something which you need
Just
help.
one thing, Vishal. I'm sorry for interrupting.
Yeah.
Can you exit the recording screen because half of the screen, yeah, it's not full.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Yep.
One second.
Thanks for pointing it out,
Yeah. And
Zed. Yeah.
is it visible now properly?
No, so just go to the presentation mode now. If you could go to
Yeah.
the presentation mode. Yep. Uh, yep.
Actually,
At
this
the
panel is on the top. One second. This, yeah, now it should be okay. And I
yep.
should bring this down. Okay.
Yeah,
Is this
this is
okay?
all. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. That's all.
Okay. Perfect. So let's start. We just had the introduction, so we'll skip this. Okay. So let's, before we even go into process mining, we need to understand why understanding the process is very important. So all of us being I don't know the audience, like some of may be more into business, some may be more into technical, but if you are in the technical line, more or less you would have heard that you need to understand the process or the business process. Why is the understanding of the business process very important? Because most of the decisions happen based on the business process. Even before we think of a technical solution, understanding the process is the first step for any automation or for any thing that you need to take forward. And this is some of the statistics. 37% of the decision makers report delays to transformation due to misunderstood processes. So basically, understanding the process is very important. Unless you understand the process, you cannot take the next step. And if you don't understand the process, there's no way you can do an improvement. So that's why process understanding is very important. Lack of what happens if you don't understand the process? So if you don't understand the process, you have low process transparency, meaning like you don't understand the process, so you don't know the nitty-gritties of the process. You have slow and inefficient processes that you are not understanding the process fully, so you have a high level view of the process. You know that this process works in such manner, but you don't know the actual detail of the process, and then you may base your decisions on some assumptions or some kind of data which you have, which is not the real data, right? So you might have an inefficient process which is there. And the third point being, like when you are doing automations, you have normally when you do an automation, you might be talking to one department or one group of people, but how it is impacting the entire process, that is very important. So one classic example is, suppose in a company, the purchase to pay. So we'll also talk about that process, but in general, suppose in a company the company needs to procure laptop, right, or any other goods. So how does it happen? So first there is a requisition from the respective department. So IT department will say that, hey, we need so and so laptops, 100 laptops to be procured, right? Then it will go to the finance team. The finance team will look for the vendors. They'll say, so purchase requisition will go into the process of uh, purchase request. So first will be the purchase requisition, then you'll have a purchase request. So in terms of purchase request, what will happen is the finance department will work with different vendors. You might have a fixed set of vendor, right? Suppose you are having Dell or other company laptop, which you are already having a fixed laptop vendor with whom you are kind of negotiating, or you might have other vendors. So basically, that purchase request will convert to purchase requisition, where you will work with different vendors to get a best rate for your company. Once that is done, the vendor selection is done, then it will ideally go to the finance team. Basically, the finance team will approve that, okay, this requisition is good to go, and we are fine with this requisition, this purchase order. So that purchase order will go to the vendor. Once that purchase order will go to the vendor, then the vendor will deliver the goods, and then the invoice will be raised, and the invoice will be paid by the company. So as you can see, there are different teams involved in a company, right? It's not a single team or a single individual who is working on in one process. And what we normally happens is, if we are doing automation with one department or one group of people, then we might miss the entire end-to-end life cycle. So in this example which I said, if you are only working with suppose requisition department, like say IT department, you'll only be doing the automation for how to procure your goods. But at the same time, you need to work with different teams like your vendor team, your finance team, and your management, and different teams are involved in the entire process. So if you are working with one department, you might miss the whole picture. So that's why understanding the entire picture is very important. So if you are working in silos, or if your automation is only working with one department, then it is then you're not getting the whole picture, and you're not reaping the benefit of the automation in that case. So that's why the entire process is very important. You need to understand the whole process so that you can know, okay, this is my bottleneck, this is where I can do optimization, automation, and so on. And the last point, difficulty justifying automation and process investment. So again, here, if you're same point, if you're working with one department or one uh, group of individuals, you might not get the whole picture. So it will be difficult justifying why you need to automate that particular process in that particular department. But if you show that in the overall scheme of things for the entire business process, then it properly justifies, and you have the data which kind of backs you up for that. So the purpose of this slide is to say why the process is important and what do we miss if we don't understand the entire process, right? So that's why it is the challenges and the impact of this steps. So are there any questions here, or before I move ahead? I think all of us do understand this, right? Why the understanding the entire process is important. Okay, I'll take that as yes. Okay, so now comes so this is the background of why process mining or process understanding is important, and now we'll come to what process mining helps us do. So process mining helps us discover, understand, optimize, and monitor your process. So I took an example of this purchase to pay, right? Like procuring the laptop for the company and so on. So as we understood, there are different departments involved. So how do we understand what departments are involved? How much time is being spent in each department? How much orders are going through for the entire life cycle, how many items are going through, and so on. So we have information in different silos or different departments. How do we collate and get that information and understand the overall picture? Okay, so that is where, to understand the overall picture of the entire data which is flowing through, right from the requisition to the payment, that entire data can be useful through that the entire data can be understood through process mining. So that is where process mining will come into picture. So process mining uses transactional data. So what does process mining actually do? It uses transactional data in systems to reveal your true process. So as I said, let me again explain it with that same example. If you have an example of say purchase to procure to pay, right? So that's a business life cycle. There are different business life cycle or business processes which all the companies follow, right? So irrespective of your department or irrespective of your technology, you still have the procure to pay process is very common. So I took an example of an IT company where they want to procure an laptop, but similar process can be in a manufacturing company. They might be procuring some raw material. Similar example maybe in hospital industry, right? They may be procuring the medical equipment and so on. So it's a very generic process, the procure to pay, but that is applicable to all the industries as well. So if you need to understand the data for each of the industry, the generic procure to pay process is same. But if you want to understand how the data is moving, how I need to understand the process, that's where the process mining will help. So it helps organizations understand their data or their process. They can understand what my data is, how my data is moving, which departments are involved, what are the variants in my data, and they can understand the overall picture. So it's not particular to one particular industry or one particular department. It is a generic process. So again, here we'll come to the details. Like process mining does give you some templates, but it is not restricted to a particular template which you need to use. As long as you have data to feed in, everything is data driven basically. So when you have the data available, then you feed the data or you get the data into this system, and then it gives you the visual representation of the data so that you understand the data better. So as we say, right, pictures speaks 1,000 words. So if you just have the data in an Excel or a database, it's very difficult to understand what the data is. So we have different data mining tools and tools available in the market, right? Whereas in case of process mining, with what happens is you have the entire dashboard available to you. You have different systems or variations which you can see for the data. You can understand if I see that suppose in my process, I understand for my procure to pay process, my finance department is supposed taking 10 days for approval, whereas the other departments are not taking that much time. So I will immediately find it difference, right? And then I can dig deeper in that process and understand that, okay, what is the bottleneck? Who is the approver who is taking time, and so on. So I will understand my process better. So once I understand my process better, then I can concentrate on automating that. So this is one step above. So even before automation, we first need to know what are the candidates for automation. So many times when we go for automation, right? The if you go to a brand new company, they might not even know that what are my processes that I can automate, right? You might suggest you can automate your HR enrollment process, or you can automate your finance processes and so on. But is that really their bottleneck? Is that really their issue? In order to understand their issue or understand their processes better, process mining can help. So you can use process mining to understand their processes. Then you understand where there are bottlenecks or where there are opportunities for improvement. Then use something known as task mining. So we'll talk about that. Task mining is another process wherein you install agents within within your users' laptops, and then you understand more from the department perspective. So as I was saying, example of the finance department. So finance department, if it is taking time, you might have a task mining agent sitting on the finance person's laptop, and then you understand what are the steps that the finance user is taking, and then you might, based on that steps, it will take some screenshots, and based on that you can understand, okay, this maybe is a manual step, and that is a candidate for automation. So process mining is a step above. After process mining, you understand the overall picture. Based on the overall picture, you can dig deeper further and understand that these are the candidates for automation, and you understand your overall process as well. So that is the kind of overall view of the process mining. So I'll take a pause here because this is an important step. Any questions on this? Is it clear?
Any questions from anyone till this point?
Okay.
If
Yeah.
we want Vishal to go a bit slower, anything that anyone is causing
Yeah,
issues,
yeah, you can.
please do let us know.
Yeah, sure.
But
Otherwise,
yeah,
I'll
Vishal.
assume that everybody is understanding.
Yeah.
Okay. So so we'll dig deeper. So in case there is any questions, you can stop me again. So basically, the benefit mentioned here is scalable data collection. You collect data from your existing system. So again, collecting data is not restricted to a particular format, right? You might have data as a kind of an event log. You might have data sitting in your database. You might have data sitting in your ERP system, say SAP, Oracle, and so on. So it is quite flexible. You can have connectors to your existing system. Suppose I might have a connector to my SAP system. I might have a connector to my ERP system, get information from that. I might have data exported in terms of a CSV or in terms of an Excel file, right? And then I feed in that data. That is possible. Then I can have maybe direct connection to the database. I can use that. So there are different means of collecting the data from different sources. So it is not fixed that you need to have data in particular format. You might have data in multiple formats, as long as it is adhering to the minimum schema or minimum data structure that is needed, then it can be fed into the process mining. So again here, when I say that it has to be in the proper structure, there is again an option of mapping. So suppose I say, like the classic example which we say, right, the invoice number, somebody might be calling invoice number as invoice number, somebody may be calling it as INV number, and so on, right? So that kind of mapping needs to be done so that so the invoice number is an example from the data collection point of view, but in general, the data has to be in a particular format. What format it needs to be there, that is also available in the process mining. As long as you can do that mapping of the data, it can be fed into the process mining. Then obviously you can get process improvement. So we'll see how this process improvements can actually be done. We'll see it in action. You can you can keep your human and automation working properly. I mean, they can work in cohesion, and you can have a central governance. It's important. You can have a central place where you can monitor your entire process end to end. So that is also very important point. So let's go to the next slide. So again, here there's an example to understand more about process mining. So suppose uh, so I was taking an example of procure to pay. Another example which is common, again, not specific to a specific industry, but account payable process. What is an account payable process? Account payable process is nothing but when you receive an invoice, you meaning the company receives an invoice for any goods that are delivered, right? Suppose the example which I was taking, the procurement of the laptop. So once the laptops have been delivered, the vendor will give an invoice or bill, right? Then the company will process the invoice, they will do a check, and they will approve the invoice and pay the invoice. This is the generic process. So it's just an example I took of the laptop. This can be a same process for across the industries, right? You receive the invoice, you process the invoice, you validate, okay, the invoice is actually the goods that we have ordered, right? It's not something which, it's just like if you go to a restaurant, yeah, if you have a big bill, you might want to check that, hey, I did order this food items, right, before I pay the bill. So similarly, you will process the invoice or do a final check before you approve and pay. So this is a high level. So this at a high level, anyone will understand this is my cycle. But what actually will happen is if you feed this data into the process mining, wherein you will feed this information in to process mining, you will find the variants or the deltas which you will see. So what actually would be happening? You might be receiving invoice. Will it always be processed? No, you might have a creditor missing. You might have something missing in the invoice and it needs to go back and forth. And then you would get a process invoice. Suppose in process mining, you before even you do a final check, you might have to you might have again a creditor missing, or you might creditor meaning whom it needs to be paid and so on. So if that is missing, you might have a back and forth there. If there is something, if a company has a process that suppose anything more than $100 needs to go through an approval process, less than $100, say $10 amount does not need to go through. So then it might they directly be auto approved, right? So in that case, this final check step might be missed or maybe skipped. So in that case, the variation may be something like this, and then you pay the invoice and so on. So in any process, it's not always a streamlined process, right? There is always some variations or some deltas, differences. So when how process mining will help you is determine that these are the deltas within your process, or these are the variants within your process. So now what will happen is this entire thing which we are seeing here, right? That will be shown as a graph or a visual representation, and it will also tell you different ways of seeing this or understanding this data. So I might have suppose 1,000 invoices processing in a month, right? I will understand, okay, how many invoices have having creditor missing. So once I have suppose that 1,000 invoices, I understand, hey, my 600 invoices have creditor missing. So then that's a big number, right? It's not going through the straightforward mail. So there's a bottleneck because then it is going through a back and forth. So I need to determine that why this is happening. So if I need to understand that, I need to have the data. I actually did have my data, but there was no visual representation of where exactly my bottleneck was there. So now in process mining, I have that visual representation with me. I can understand my data very easily because it is available to me as part of a process graph. I can drill down further. So suppose I say creditor missing, right? Then I can drill down further. That is it from a particular vendor where it is always missing? Like suppose I have 5 vendors through which I'm working with, right? Is it like only two of the vendors are always missing this and so on? So if I need to understand that data as a normal scenario, right? How will I understand? I'll need to dig through queries. You'll have to write some custom queries, understand that, maybe have it in an Excel sheet, do some formatting, create some charts and so on. Here, only requirement is you need the data. And once that data is in a particular format, everything is available to you in process mining. You can easily dig through the data. You can do a root cause analysis. You can understand where exactly are the bottlenecks, and then automatically push that finding into automation hub. So we'll talk about automation hub as well, and then push it as a candidate for automation. So here, that's how this process mining helps. It helps you understand the process more efficiently, understand where exactly you are missing in the entire process, and understand where exactly there are opportunities for improvement as such. Okay. So we'll not go through much in this. It might be more, but in general, you can understand your process steps. You can understand different things, like you can understand your throughput time, means end to end how much time it is taking. You can understand your automation opportunities. Your understand you can You can understand your interactions or which are the high volume cases, heavy workloads, and so on. You can understand more of your data. You can understand also the compliance perspective, right? So suppose if you're from the compliance perspective, you need a process to be followed, right? And then you need an approval step to be followed. But suppose the approval step is not being followed. So then you are not following the process, right? So that's a compliance issue. So that's something known as maverick buying in the procure to. So that also you can understand. You can understand the volume data. You can understand from the cost perspective. You can understand different attributes specific to your data. So it's not only you understand the flow, you get lot of more information about your process. Right from understanding the process steps, your throughput time, automation opportunities, and so on. So there are lot many opportunities or lot many data that you understand. Okay. Okay, so process mining, where does it fit in? It is part of the discovery tool actually. So process mining fits in into this way. So it is again a discovery tool. It works in tandem with task mining, communication mining, and automation hub. So process mining we are discussing today. It many times it is working with task mining. So what is difference between process and task mining? So as I was saying, process mining you understand the entire process. So suppose as I was taking that example from the finance department, you understand that okay, my department is taking a lot of time to uh, say approve my invoice and so on. So then once you understand that finance department is a problem, so then you can use task mining to understand what exactly they are doing. Is there any manual step being done there? What is the system they are using and so on. So there you might deploy a task mining agent so that it will understand more of the data and you can understand where is the potential for automation. So simply put, process mining spans across multiple departments. It is an overall process. Task mining will be spanning only a single department or a group of people where you will understand more of a specific process. And the result of process mining is you understand the entire process, you understand the bottlenecks, you understand the improvement opportunities. The result of task mining, you will understand where exactly again, you'll understand the automation opportunities and you'll get a specific input on what the result of task mining will be a direct automation, which you might be a candidate of automation. Task mining. So this is more, this will be dealing with a specific department or specific group of people, whereas this is dealing with multiple systems and multiple departments. So in a nutshell, it's a high level difference. Communication mining, as we know, like it's understanding communications and understanding, like say it may be email communication and so on, and understand the improvement opportunities. And then this all feeds into automation hub. Automation hub is to crowdsource the ideas, get ideas from different people. So this can be this has a direct feed. You can right click and feed your information directly to automation hub so that it is visible to your management, and then they can decide, okay, we want to go ahead with the automation and so on. So these are all part of the discovery products from UiPath. So process mining is part of that. Okay. So now, so basically we'll understand the process of evolution of process mining. So discover, understand, act, and monitor. So what exactly is that? Let's go directly. So discover, you discover. How do you discover the opportunity? You connect to the different source systems, and now we'll go a little bit more into deeper. You can connect with the different systems. So I already mentioned, right? You don't need to have the data in a format as such. You can be in different format. It might maybe your SAP, Oracle, Salesforce, Jira, or any other system. You might have a export of the dump of the data, or you might be having a connector into these systems and get the information from there. And you also have a inbuilt app templates which UiPath keeps on adding. So earlier last year there were just 3 templates. Now there are more templates which are getting added. So templates are ready to use process mining kind of, you can say, templates or ready to use processes which you can plug and play. So you can connect the data for suppose you have Oracle as your ERP systems, right? So and you want to understand your procure to pay process. You connect with your Oracle system, you understand the data, and you can start getting the information. So before you, so this, it's basically a 4-step process. First you discover. Discover meaning you discover and connect to different source systems. Then second step is you understand the data, which is very important, which we'll see now in action. Like how you understand the data, you'll see the data which is in the process mining. You have these visual charts which are available, and there are different variations. We'll go more into detail on this in the actual UI as well. and you can see the impact of cost, labor, root cause analysis, and so on. So I'll not go more into detail here because I'm going to show you this as well. And then what is the end result of this? After you do all of this exercise, you have to act. You understand that, okay, this is my candidate for automation. So then you might push it directly to Automation Hub. You might deploy the task mining agent, and you do automation. You do an improvement. Basically, so it's like a continuous improvement. It's not a one-time activity. It's a circular activity. So once you do an automation, then again you push the data and understand further that, okay, did I achieve something or not? So then you do it and you monitor again if there is any improvement, and then continuously improvement. So all of us keep hearing, right? Continuous improvement. So this is the same thing. So once you understand the data further, you again do some automation, do process improvement, read the data, understand again where, okay, this issue is handled. So is there, what are the other places where there can be improvement, and so on. So that's how you continuously do a continuous improvement in this process as such. Okay, and this one is available both on Automation Cloud. Earlier it was not available on Automation Suite. It's also available in on-premise. So the easiest one is the Automation Cloud because obviously it's a SaaS. You don't have to do anything. All the infrastructure is handled by UiPath. So we'll see the demo in this, but it is also possible if you are having your infrastructure in-house. So it's also available in Automation Suite. So any questions here before we jump to the demo? Okay.
Let's hold a minute,
Yeah.
Vishal, on this. Yeah.
Yes.
So anyone has any questions? So guys, because we would be jumping onto the demo. If you have these, if you will be able to correlate with. So my request is, if anyone has any questions, we can go ahead and ask them. Till the point that Vishal has already covered up.
Hi Vishal, I had a question here.
Yeah. Yeah.
You were talking about the automation potential graph there, right? In one of the slides. How is that generated? Does the process mining app do it, or is it something that the analyst sits and figures out
Yeah,
with
this
the
is
data? How is that?
Yeah, it is a feature within, so it is a feature within the process mining. So we'll see that basically what it does is if there is different kind of variants which are available within we'll see it in action actually. So
Okay.
it is a feature within process mining wherein based on the data it will analyze and it will suggest to you that this is a candidate for automation. Basically, it will know that suppose there is a lot of manual steps happening in suppose the example which I took, right? So suppose it is taking more time for a particular step. So then it will understand that this is a place where automation is possible. So suppose it's taking 10 days for the approval. That 10 days, why is it taking? Is it some step where it is stuck at a particular point in the process, or it's some variant within the process where it is stuck? So then it will know that, okay, this is a candidate for automation potential. So we'll see that also in action actually. We'll see that how it is available.
All right. Yeah. Thank you.
Any more questions? Okay, so let's see this in action, and obviously once we see this in action, it will be more clear. So process mining, I'm using the staging, but it basically, yeah, process mining is again just like other UiPath products. If you have the enterprise license, it's available for you for around 60 days. So by the time I give the session, my earlier account was expired, so that's why I had to go to the staging. So basically here, just like other services, you would have a process mining enabled, and then you come into the process mining. So this is my dashboard. So these are my published apps. But when you come here, you have this option to create new apps. So this is the template which you are talking about. So you have generic template. So the generic template meaning you have one single event log file. You want to feed in that file and understand the data, or you have multiple files coming in. And these are the different business processes. So we were talking about this process, right? Requisition to pay or purchase to pay. So purchase to pay, if you have your purchase to pay is a generic process, but your actual ERP system might be different, right? Somebody might be using SAP, somebody might be using Oracle, and so on. So depending on which system you are using, you might use that particular template to understand that. So basically, when I say purchase to pay with SAP, it will know that SAP will give me data in this particular format, right? So that's why I can use a connector to that, or that data will in that format, and then it will be easier to do it. And there's a generic one as well, so where you can use a generic one if it's not part of this one. Similarly, there are different other processes like order to cash, then you have incident management and so on. So this particular template, right, this UiPath keeps on adding as such. So if you want to show it to your client, normally these particular processes are very common, like purchase to pay or order to cash, and that's why I'm using even purchase to pay for our demo as well. But there are, but it's not restricted to this particular template. But these are very common processes which your higher ups or your management people will definitely understand, or your business people will definitely understand. They understand what is purchase to pay and so on. We as technical people need to understand, but they as a business people will definitely understand. And then the order to cash, your incident management, account management, and so on. So you have Salesforce, you have, so these things keep getting added. Last year there were just 3-4 templates, so now see there keeps on getting added. So again, this is staging, so don't take my word for it. There might be a couple of more templates than what is there in your, if you do the provisioning, maybe there might be some little bit less. Okay, so suppose if you want to see any process, or you want to understand this, you simply use that, and you can use the create app. And once you do the create app, you give some basic details, you configure the data source, review the details, and you are done. So I've already created one purchase to pay. Let's see this in action. So purchase to pay, again, I'm using sample data. So basically, if you are just starting on this and you want to understand the capability, this is the best way to understand how exactly it is helping me as a business, right? So here I'm using the sample data which UiPath has provided. So this is my dashboard or the summary page where it will give me the overall picture of my process. So here what I am seeing here is I have purchase to pay process. I have around 172K items. So average throughput time, as I was saying, right, there are different parameters. So average time it is taking for my entire cycle is 21.23 days. The automation rate is this much. The late delivery rate is this much. Percentage maverick buying. Maverick buying is nothing but when the process. So let me open this. Yeah. So suppose this is again, I'm just opening the documentation page. So in general, what is the purchase to pay process? You create a purchase requisition, then purchase order, then a goods delivery, invoice received, and payments and billing, right? And in between you have approval as such. But Maverick bind is something where the approval step is not followed. So you are doing a deviation from the process. So that parameters also you can see from here. And how much of my value is, how much of my overall dollar value is Maverick buying. So here I might want to go why my few of the processes are, few of the invoices are not following the said process and so on. And now on the left side, you would see different options here. So the overall, the main one or the first step which we will see is the end-to-end process. So here you can see the end-to-end process. So let me zoom. So here you can zoom in, zoom out, and here you can see what are my processes or what are the steps that my process is following, right? So suppose create purchase requisition is the process. So here you will see two things. One is the arrow, and there's a number in between here. So in the overall scheme of things, like around 17K invoices flow through this in the overall scheme of things, right? So whatever data I fed, we'll see how we can do the filtration as well. But in the overall data which is fed to the system, this many invoices are following this path. So suppose 17K odd, then out of that 18K create purchase requisition, and then if the suppose I have write around 18.49K items, right? So the major path which is getting followed, that will be in dark line. The invoices which are not following this path, they will be in the light line, or they will be in the light color. So if you see, this is a gray color and this is a dark color, right? So this way you'll know that my major processes are following this path. Whereas so here it's almost 17K. This is a less smaller number, right? So around 2.8K are following this path. So after create requisition, I can say that most of my, like almost 14K are following this path, whereas the other 2.8K are following this path. So I immediately know that, okay, this is how my data is looking. So I might be expecting that all of my processes are following this path, but that's not true, right? I can immediately see that there is some variation here. So there is a difference here. I can see that. So this visually you can see from end-to-end process. So this is an end-to-end process, and let me pull this panel this side. Okay, yeah. So, and then I can go more into detail here. I can zoom in and I can understand the variant. So variant is like different sub variants or sub processes which I am following. So suppose I was showing here in the this one, right, in the slide. Let me open that once more. Yeah. So in the slide, what we had seen was that this is the normal flow, but these are the variants or the different you can say deltas or the differences which are happening in the process, say creditor missing or some this. So similarly, I can see that these are my variants which are there. So I am a variant 1, variant 2, and so on. So I can understand more what are the variants within my process. So that I can understand from here. Then I can, I get a overall picture here. I can go more into detail. I can go into lot detail. The more I go into detail, the more variants I'll see. See, it's so many variants. So it becomes very difficult to see also. But see, this is how much detail I can go actually. So I can go into lot of detail and understand the variant. The more I zoom out, the more I go at a high level. So basically, as a management, I might get a overall picture. If I want to dig deeper, I can go more into details as well. Then I can see the trend. If I go here, what is the trend? Like it's going down actually. Maybe there's some impact on my business. Maybe there's some recession or whatever is the reason the value is going down. So again here I'm seeing number of items. I have a variation here. I can see based on the average item value. So in the beginning I was seeing the number of items, right? I can see based on the item value. I can see based on total item value and so on. So I can do that changes as well. I can see that. I can see the distribution here. There's a graph here as such. Okay. Then I can do event analysis here. So event analysis, like there are different steps which are going on, right? So suppose based on different steps which are going on, I can do the distribution and see what is happening and so on. So event distribution can be done from here. Okay. Then I was seeing that this is the overall data, but I want to filter, suppose on my quarter, I say I want to see only the data for Q4 2020, right? So it's as simple as just doing a filtration here and then seeing the data here. So here, if you see, it's a filtered data. From the overall data, I filtered only for Q4 and I'm getting the data for that. So everything is available to you visually. Everything is available to you as just a click over here, and you can filter your data as well. So I'll just show you. So there are lot of parameters here. I can select each of the filters here and visualize my data accordingly. Okay, so let me do it all again. Okay, then I can I want to understand. So I want to suppose understand that suppose I want to understand, say Maverick Bank, where the approval steps are not being followed, right? So suppose I have around this many data which is not following my entire process. So then I can go again into and do root cause analysis. In root cause analysis, I can say I can go and say which are the late deliveries. Okay. So maybe what has happened here, I'm not selecting the correct data. So let me go back here. So let me do the end-to-end process again. So we were seeing this, and yeah. So suppose I want to see. Okay, let's see. This was the event analysis we have seen. Then we have seen. Okay, there's another option here. We'll see one by one again. So suppose I want to see based on the efficiency. So supplier performance. So this many suppliers have late delivery rate of 92%. This one, Western Canada supplier, has a late delivery rate of 92%. So everything that I need to understand for my data for the different parameters, I can easily understand from here. Then what I can do is I can again apply some filters as well. So suppose I want to filter based on particular company, say company one. So that filtration I can do here. Then I can do, suppose I want to do a comparison between the data from one company to another company, right? So that comparison, there's a filter and a comparison option available here. So one, I showed you filter, and the second is this comparison option. So in the comparison option, I say that I want to select company one and I want to compare it with the, say, company two. So here what it does is automatically it gives a different color coding. This is orange, this is purple, and I can then visually see the data also per stepwise as well. So suppose revoke purchase requisition for company 1, which is in this amber color, this many invoices or this many processes went through, whereas in case of company 2, this many were going through, and so on. Then I can invert it as well. So instead of doing the color coding this way, I can do it there. So this is like a handy feature as well. Then I can also see from the variant perspective, like, so I can do basically comparison, side by side comparison, and I can compare it visually as well. And I can see it at an overall level, whereas I can also go at a detail level. And same thing which I showed here, right? This thing, a trend and all, we can see that as well. So you can see here a lot of things we can see here. So let me do a clear on. And if I want to see the root level data, right, the actual data which I have fed in, right, so then I can go to the process data option. So this is my like row level data which I want to see. So this is actually the data which I fed in. So I want to go at a root level and see what is the data I fed in. I can export it as well, and so on. Then we can do suppose root cause analysis. So I can say I am filtering. So show significant increase. Let's not check this. Okay. So suppose I want to see late delivery. I see that out of my overall data, 33% have late delivery. Okay. And out of that, if I want to say late delivery, I want to do more filtration. Late delivery, and I want to see which material is late delivered. So I can do second level of filtration, and I can zoom in and I can say, okay, late delivery is yes, means it's late delivery, and this particular data is late delivered. So overall, in the overall picture, maybe 8% is for this particular item, say Notebook Pro 17. This is late. Then again, this is another item, say flat panel assembly. So again, this data is based on what I have fed, right? So I can visually understand that. I can do a root cause analysis, and I can understand that, okay, this particular item within for this late delivery parameter, these particular items are in the late delivery as such. Okay. And then we have this question of automation potential. So this is the one. So automation potential, when you click, it will analyze the data, and it will show you that suppose your create purchase requisition for that entire cycle, right? Suppose your create purchase requisition, entire data which is fed in, entire data, if I do, it is almost taking 3 years, right? There's no automation here. So then definitely it's a candidate for automation. Whereas in case of create purchase order item, there is no manual steps. So then here it's showing 0 steps. So I can come here and see, okay, this particular step is definitely taking more time. So this is a candidate for automation. So automatically based on the data, it kind of gives you a detail. You can understand that. So suppose you can again then go to the details, see which activities are taking more time. So suppose this particular step is definitely taking more time. So then it does has the automation potential. So, and you can see more into details of this particular step. Then again here there are different parameters. I think we kind of covered more or less most of the things. And then from the data settings, you can again, just like other of the products, right, you can restrict permissions as well. If you want to restrict particular in your overall scheme of things, suppose you want only finance people, I think finance people have most of the access, but suppose your HR team, you want only certain kind of access. Again, HR is not a good example, but suppose your IT team needs to have particular kind of access. So that all you can do restrictions as well from here. So as you can see, there are lot many options here to understand your data. The main thing is it gives you a visual representation. It gives you ability to do a root cause analysis. And then once you do this root cause analysis, suppose as you see here, suppose I told you one more thing. So I think, yeah. So whatever you do here, right, you can get that automation potential. This we did, and suppose you do an event analysis and so on. So what I can do is I can directly, there's one more option here. If I come to this particular step, right? Suppose I understand that this particular step is something which in the process that I want to automate. Then I have an option here, right click and send this activity directly to automation. So once I click this, it will ask me for certain details, the automation name and all, and directly I can submit it to automation hub. So again, in the presentation we were seeing, right, that everything feeds into automation hub. So directly it can be fed into, it's not mandatory, but if you are using automation hub, you can feed this data. So it's like these products are interrelated with each other. If you want to feed data into automation hub, this is one mechanism to do it. Of course, you can directly go into automation hub and feed in data as well and so on. So that's also possible. So I'll take a pause here. I think there's lot much information with the past. So are there any questions here?
So guys, we have question. Yeah.
So Vishal,
Yes.
how do we can choose a process for the process mining?
Yeah, so first step for the process mining is, as I was showing here, you have to come here, use the app and use a template. So suppose it depends. So suppose if it is this ready to use template, like the purchase to pay and so on, then you can directly use them. If you have certain things which are, suppose you want to do, suppose this invoice incident management, right? You might be using Jira or you might be using this ServiceNow and so on. So some templates are inbuilt so that you can directly select. Otherwise, you can also create your own templates, or you can select this single file, multiple files, and so on. So if worst case you don't have anything matching, you can use multiple files. So it will be like system A, B, C, D. You feed in the data for A, B, C, D, and then again it will visually show you the same thing which I was showing you before this. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions?
And again, the one more thing. So how this process mining data, right? Data it is getting. It is taking the data from the logs only, right? From orchestrator logs.
Yeah, not orchestrator logs. So basically, as I said, your data which you feed in, right? There are multiple sources of getting data. So let me show you 1 minute so you'll understand. So suppose I select here, create and template. So I will create it next. So see here. Suppose sample data is just if you're using for demo purpose and which UiPath is directly giving so that you can directly see the what all parameters are there. Then the other option is uploading a CSV or a TSP file in a format which is required, or you can use certain tools. So these are tools which are used, which like data sync tools. Suppose you have an existing database from where you want to sync and so on. So you can use these tools. So again, as I said, you can have different ways in which you can get the data. You can dump your data into a CSV format, import it there. You can have a data sync. You can create connectors like which is there in the template and directly get data from the system. So it is like to understand if you have connectors, what is the difference between using this kind of data versus connector? The only difference is if it is a connector, right, it is more real time. Suppose you have a connector with SAP, you get more real time data. Every time your orders get added, you can immediately see the difference and you can visualize it, right? Versus if you have this dump, what will happen is you will have to again export that data, again do a refeed, and then see that, compare that data again, compare with the old graph, what is the difference in the new graph. Suppose I did some automation based on this process mining, right? Once I have done the automation, I want to again see that. So then I need to feed in the new data here, right? So then it is, I need to do that step again. Whereas using where you have that template or we have your direct connector, it is more little bit more real time because then you directly immediately get the data. Okay.
Okay.
One question on that. What is the difference between process mining and data mining then? So we are using data to create automation opportunities. Is that not the same for data as well, data mining?
Yeah, data mining is a term where you are understanding the data. You try to understand what exactly my data is. So data mining is purely like you are understanding your data. Your data might be spanning multiple systems, okay? And you want to purely understand what my data is actually talking about. What is, so say, invoice data or so on. And your data mining or data, you have this concept of a data lake wherein you have data coming from different sources and so on. Process mining is, as you see here, it is more of from the process perspective. Again, again, it is based on data, so you cannot say that they are completely different. But process mining, you're understanding your overall. If your business people or your management wants to understand, right? They will not directly understand the data. They will want to understand it visually, graphically, and as you can see in the process mining, it becomes very easy to explain to them. So obviously, process mining is also based on the data, because ultimately everything is fed. Whatever you're seeing in the graph is nothing but the actual data, right? What UiPath has done is it is graphically represented that data to you and given you different parameters or different kind of filters to understand the data. So you can say process mining is more from the process perspective, which is using data, and data mining is purely data, understanding the data, where it has nothing to do with process. Your data may be any data which you want to understand and you want to use. So maybe using data mining, you're feeding the data, and using process mining, you're understanding the data more from the process perspective.
And what is the difference between the task mining and process mining?
Yeah, so as I was saying, process mining, you understand the overall process. Okay, so I was taking this example of multiple departments, your entire process, your procure to pay process, right? Or your purchase to pay process, right? It will span multiple departments. So suppose you go into any company, they tell you that, hey, I don't know what needs to be automated. You tell to me, okay? So instead of you telling them that you automate your HR processes or you automate your finance processes, if you want to get more in-depth understanding of what exactly their processes are there, you can get the data from them from different systems, push that into process mining, understand where there's a potential for automation, where they are spending more time, because you can see, right, it is very easily understood that where there is an automation potential, where the time is getting spent and so on. So process mining will normally encompass or cover lot many departments. It will not be particular a single department. Whereas in case of task mining, so task mining comes as a step 2. Once suppose you understand it, okay, my suppose procurement department is always taking more time to process my orders. So then you might have a task mining agent deployed on that procurement department laptop. It will be like it is again a tool which is used, and you will then understand more on what actually they are doing. Are they using some manual processes and so on? So task mining will always be particular to a subset of a group of people. It is not spanning multiple group of people. It is a subset. So it is a step 2 which you will take, and you will understand more from, say, procurement team. This is where they are spending time. So the result of task mining, you will be understand, okay, this is the place where there's an automation potential, and then you'll exactly understand that, okay, now this is what needs to be automated. So and in a high level, task mining is through a particular department or a particular step, whereas process mining is encompassing your overall process end to end. It is not particular to a particular department.
So can we say the task mining is a part of the process mining only, sub part of it, or sub process we can say?
You can say, because when UiPath kind of gives a discovery tool, basically what happens is, again, it's up to the customer. UiPath will say that you take process mining, task mining together, because as a result of process mining, the next step you will need to understand more on the process. But some customer might not want to buy that, right? So some customer might say that I'll just take process mining, but these two work more together, you can say, because process mining as a next step, you will need to use task mining to understand more into that. And then these are all mining tools, right? You now have communication mining and so on. So, but yeah, you can say it is a subset or a next step, logical step. As a result of process mining, you will more or less, you might use task mining, but again, some customer might not want to use it and so on. So it is again dependent, but UiPath would recommend that basically. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions?
I think we shall one question. I think why we choose with the process mining, especially because we know that everyone we have to analyze the process, right?
Mm-hmm.
So most of the customer they don't want for process mining. We can go ahead directly. We can go ahead with the automation point of view. So why we need a process mining? Because most of the customer they will not accept this process mining. Again, it will becomes under new license model, and again, it's cost under more cost under, right?
Yeah, it depends on your customer's maturity level, right? So suppose, as I said, process mining, what happens is we see the entire process end to end, right? So suppose some customers will say that, no, we know the process end to end. We want to directly go with automation. We know that my say procurement department takes time. Let me start with automation. So with the procurement department, I want to directly start that. So there are different ways in which your automation candidate can come into picture, right? So some customer might say that I directly want to go ahead with automation. But what happens is in process mining is they are working in silos. So we had this one point in the presentation, right? We are working in silo or we are working with one particular department. You still don't know in the overall picture where exactly you are doing your automation or your judgment based on some customer's judgment, right? But do you have data supporting that? Do you have validation? Do you have historical data which is supporting that, which is available here? Through process mining, what happens is you are analyzing the entire data. You can actually pinpoint that based on this data, you understand that yes, this is the step. You can visually see it, and you can see that okay, you are seeing the process end to end. Then it's very easy to kind of understand that yes, this is my process which is taking time, this is my department which is taking time. So process mining, not all customers might want to do, but it is a very important tool. That's why I would say that you can, when you talk with your customer, you can show them the benefits there, that this is how you can understand the picture or overall picture, because without that you will not understand. Then it is only based on the judgment of a particular department or a particular customer. So here you get an overall picture. So that is the main advantage here.
Yep. Thank you.
Yeah.
Also to add on this, we have legacy systems also in the process. Now what happens is when we are having legacy systems, what actually is the root cause is that the business or the users, they have developed that process and they're not aware what would be the end-to-end process execution exactly, where the process flow is getting stuck, as Vishal has already mentioned. So that is how it has also been taken care of. So we get a proper view on understanding how the process flow, what is the actual process that is being followed, and how that can be optimized further from the automation perspective.
Yeah, thanks, Shubham. Okay, I think we are on time. Any further questions? But yeah, I mean, we can obviously take any questions.
Yeah, so guys, yeah,
Namrata.
Yeah, Vishal, coming back to the automation potential, right, that I asked earlier on. So when we say automation potential, you're looking at it from a process level, right? So it can have multiple process flows. We're talking sub-processes, tasks,
Right.
sub-tasks, right?
Right.
So it is not necessary that these processes are optimized at the moment.
Correct.
What flows it's showing, right?
Yes,
So at that point in time, how is it arriving at that conclusion that the automation potential is 90%? Because the number of manual steps doesn't necessarily mean it is fit for automation.
Yes,
right?
it's true.
So,
True.
yeah.
Yeah, so basically in the process, if you see, we had different steps which it goes through, right? So you had different sub-process steps, you can see. So the overall process is say procure to pay. Within that, you have
Right.
sub-processes like you do requisition, you do purchase order, and so on. You have different steps. So at a high level, and then you had this option to go more into the details. So suppose purchase requisition may have sub 5 steps. Okay.
Right.
So so when you say automation potential, it will be at the level at which you are seeing the data. Suppose you are at the high level, and you say that requisition you are seeing at that level. So at the requisition level, if there are sub 5 steps, it is possible that 2 of the steps are not taking time, but 3 of the steps are taking long time, and then it is contributing to your overall time duration for that particular step. So when you go deeper, you will understand that okay, these three steps are taking more time compared to the overall 5 steps. So that's why there is that detail level. You can dig deeper. So it will tell you at the overall level. Then once you go to that step and dig deeper, you will understand more further. So it actually, to be honest, it depends on how good is your data. If your data is not capturing that information, then it is very difficult to understand. So the more detail level data that is captured, the more easier it will be for you to understand. But what the template tells you is that these are the overall steps which are always required for your overall process. Then even if your data is not capturing that detail level steps, it will understand that okay, you'll be able to pinpoint that at high level this particular step is definitely taking time. Then how much detail you can go into that is depending on your quality of data. How good is your data?
All right. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Any more questions? Yeah, I mean, these are all good questions. Yeah. Okay, Shubham, I think if there are no more questions, want to?
Yeah, I think any more questions? Let's wait for 1 minute. Else we'll be wrapping it up.
So Vishal, right? Can you have the multiple session on the different topics as well, right? Like, apart from the process mining, okay?
Yeah.
What the latest feature like the business communication, I think messaging or something like that one.
Yeah, I'll plan for that. Basically, this actually I got invite from Parth, but yeah, definitely you can plan. What you can do is you can put in your suggestions and we can plan for further sessions. Definitely, not only me. Like there are so many speakers. All of us have some other expertise. So yeah, we can plan for that.
Yeah, so basically what you can do is you can write it in the chat or maybe reach out to the chapter leads from different divisions, and then they would be obviously taking that considerations into.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we have lots of new sessions that are coming up in the Mumbai chapter. So if you are interested, you can obviously go ahead and check UiPath Mumbai chapter leads, and over there you'll be able to see what are the upcoming chapters that are coming. I'm just putting that in the chart so that you guys are aware about it. And I think that was a great sessions. Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So yeah. So what about the Pune session? Currently, I'm staying Pune. So as per Mumbai, right? Is there any Pune chapter as well, or are we planning any kind of session from the Pune team as well?
Yeah, we have Pune chapters also. So I just shared a link for Pune chapters also, and also the Mumbai chapter leads. So see, the community that we have, most of the sessions are usually virtual, but we have in meetup person meetups also. What I can recommend you is that you go and attend the meetings which are actually in person, so that you can actually engage with the social gathering and everything. You can understand what are the other people are facing as an issue. If you have any issues, you can get a connect with the other speakers, maybe someone who is actually aware about this issue case or maybe idea, and probably he would be able to help you out in that scenario. And obviously, it would be helping in your networking as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Sure.
Yeah, and Shirish, like you can definitely go to this page. I think if you're not seeing community.uipath.com. So it's not only particular city wise. You can if there is a virtual session, you can attend anywhere, and you can connect to us on LinkedIn if you're not connected. I mean, there are so many chapters, and then whenever this kind of sessions happen, we do post it on LinkedIn at least, so that people are aware. So actually, this if you want to learn, there are so many options to learn. So there is no scarcity for learning. Every other day there is some or the other session going on.
That's right. So as Vishal is already saying that we have so many options for learning out. It's not only related to which domain. If you have any specific reasons on what you need to actually capture, or if you are wanting to actually see what are the best practices, there would be some events that would be happening in virtual sessions where you can actually go ahead and get that sorted out. I've pasted my LinkedIn and also Vishal's LinkedIn, so you can reach out to us on LinkedIn as well. And I think that's all.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Thanks, Vishal. Thanks, Shubham.
Yeah.
Thanks
Thank
for your
you.
say.
Thanks,
Yeah.
guys.
Okay. Thanks a lot, everyone.
Thank
I'm just
you.
stopping with the recording, and I hope you have a great day.
Can we get the recordings of the session?